Hello and welcome to Buy Africa, the show where we focus on investment opportunities around the continent. I'm Tshepo Modiba, and thanks for joining me. Tonight, Mr. Africa is back, Langa Madonko, investment principal at Africa Strategic Impact Fund, and we're talking Ghana. Langa, thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me.
Ghana, let's kick off. We like moving around the continent, West Africa, Ghana. Your thoughts about where the country stands right now, big picture?
Okay, I think on a high level, I think right now Ghana has lost some of its spark. It was a very big player in the story around Africa rising, but now debt levels are rising. The equity markets are also taking a bit of a knock, and the growth rate has at least halved from where it was about 2 years ago. And Ghana still has promise, but it's no longer the shining star that it was a while ago.
If we focus on debt particularly, is the issue not so much debt but the foreign denominated debt?
I think, yeah, it is the foreign denominated debt with the CD also depreciating in value. The debt burden is definitely lifting, and it's become quite significant in relative to the GDP of the country. Right. And I think Ghana find themselves in a quite precarious position around that because of the amount of board issuances that they went through while they were still reaping the benefits of the newly discovered oil.
Right. So what does this all mean in terms of the prospects, in terms of the developmental agenda that the government was pushing?
I think the government of Ghana has been proactive in terms of trying to come up with measures around reversing what has happened lately. And I think one of those measures is free visas for all people from the African continent or holding African passports. It's a visa-free, and I think that will have an impact of stimulating the intra-Africa trade, and it will also make them attractive for people who are looking to take advantage of the West Africa opportunity, because it means now you are in Ghana 90 days, you didn't need to process any paperwork to go there, and then you can move in between the other countries from there.
Remind us again, what are the key drivers of this economy?
Ghana historically has been an agro-based and FMCG-based business, with cocoa being a big driver.
Right.
And then recently with the discovery of oil, that has really been impactful. But I think the real impact of that was short-lived with the tanking oil prices.
Right. In terms of those discoveries, even with a lower oil price, are they likely to be able to benefit from the oil discoveries? I
think their economy was not wholly reliant on oil and gas, so they still have the potential to benefit. The only thing that proves as a setback to that is that some of the bonds that were issued were actually betting on the income and the royalties that would come from the oil.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. You spoke a little bit about a sector that I know you like in the country, FMCG. Overall, what does that dynamic look like for Ghana?
I think Ghana's story is the same as what we noticed throughout the rest of the continent, a growing middle class, though it may now have slowed. It's also a growing population in general. So FMCG becomes one of the sectors that is benefiting from that dynamic of population growth.
And that hasn't changed irrespective of the short-term difficulties?
No, that hasn't changed. Then you start to see that in terms of how the businesses that are in that space are performing, particularly relative to the local companies and how they've performed in terms of their income generating capabilities and also their capability to now move into the rest of the region.
Okay, let's talk companies. You want to kick off with what, Unilever?
Yeah, Unilever, international business that's been in Ghana for quite a while, produces many of the products that we also know here in South Africa. Right. Stuff like Omo, a good business, and Ghana has been a significant African market for them. Right. And of late, though, of course, as with everybody else, equities in Ghana have taken a knock, so its share price has gone down, but still fundamentally a sound business with great potential upside.
Now, the core business itself, is it really just a distribution model of Unilever International's brands?
They do manufacture
in
country, And they've taken some of the brands that have worked for them in the rest of the continent and in the rest of the world and put them into the Ghanaian market.
Right.
And they are definitely a market leader in that space at present.
Okay. Now, how has the weakening currency actually impacted this business in terms of margins and profitability?
I think all international businesses have taken a knock from weakening currencies across the continent, and Unilever is no exception.
Right.
But because of the diversified line of products and also with those growth, I think sometimes the volumes have helped to partially offset the depreciation in currency. But again, I think as with many international firms, they're all looking forward to a time where the currencies may start to correct and to strengthen again.
Okay. In terms of the outlook from a, I guess, volume and growth perspective?
I think as the middle class continues to grow, and as if Unilever continue to follow a strategy of pushing product from Ghana into the rest of the region, right, particularly into countries like Ivory Coast where growth is on the rise, then Unilever continues to be a robust business with lots of potential in Ghana.
So this isn't necessarily just a play on Ghana, it's also on the region?
I think all the businesses that are in the FMCG space in Ghana, it's a regional play.
Right. And
Ghana benefited from the slump in Ivory Coast, what they call the lost decade, and that set the foundation for them being a good regional access way into Francophone West Africa.
Now, what sort of products are doing well within Ghana? I know, as an example, Unilever India, you know, the Lifebuoy actually has tremendous sales there. What sort of products are doing well? Is it upper end or near the bottom?
Right now, it's in the class that they call lower middle income.
Right.
That's the class that has been growing the fastest, and therefore you get products like Omo is doing quite well. One of the lines that they have there is a soap called Geisha, which is also doing reasonably well. And I think there's a lot of potential also further down the income bracket to lower income for products like Lifebuoy.
Right. Okay. And I'm assuming going forward, you'd expect the premium brands to do better as the rising middle class starts to take off.
Yes, I think it's the anticipated rise of that segment was a whole lot faster. If we're talking about 3, 4, 5 years back, it's going to be slightly slower. But yes, they will continue to do well in that segment.
And in terms of, I guess, you touched a little bit about it in terms of product prospects for revenue growth. You expect that to be robust going forward?
It will continue to grow,
right,
particularly on a CD basis. But for the parent company who want to then convert it into euros and into pounds, there may be a slight lag in terms of what Ghana contributes towards the final bottom line in their own currencies.
Okay. Given the pullback, is this, you seem a little bit more muted in terms of your excitement about this. Is this one that you're excited about from a prospects and investment prospects?
I think if I'm going in with CDs, it's one I probably would look at. If I'm going in on dollars or pounds, it's one where right now my perspective and my perception on the stock is one of watch and see,
right,
just for the near term to see what Ghana's economy continues to evolve into.
So the currency is a big concern here.
The currency is the major concern right now.
Okay. Moving elsewhere in the sector, anything else that piques your interest?
I think another company that I like is Samba Foods.
Right.
It's a local indigenous company formed in 1993 by a lady who was an expat returning to Africa to take advantage of the Africa Rising story. The business, of course, goes through all the rigmaroles of the lack of funding, etc., but all of a sudden hits payday when Yum Foods, the owners of KFC, give them a lucrative contract.
Okay.
And since then, the business has been on the up and up and is starting to look at beyond the region and start to look at international markets, which I think is one of the things few African businesses have realized there's an opportunity for, not taking into account the number of Africans who are in the diaspora. And therefore, it's one of the companies that I think has a good rags to riches type story, if I can put it that way.
Okay. In terms of the underlying brands, what else have they brought through?
In terms of the underlying brands, they're mostly in the spice and condiment business and seasoning, and they've tried to keep their brands relevant to the market in terms of they've produced for whoever it is that was willing to consume.
Right.
Again, my case in point is KFC, where they make their sauces and pepper sauce and so forth and so on. And as they go into the different markets, they try and create a brand identity that is relevant and resonates with the local market, rather than trying to force a Ghanaian product into a new market.
And the underlying production and manufacturing happens within Ghana?
The underlying production and manufacturing happens in Tema in Ghana, and it's a robust growing business, one that I think with this current management and with this current product line can continue to push itself further and deeper into the continent. I've had some of their products. I wish we had it here as well.
Oh man, why don't you bring stuff on the show? I always get excited about these potentials. Now, the currency, I'm assuming, hasn't affected this business as much as a Unilever.
This is one business that, because it's a Ghanaian-born bred business, for them with the weaker currency but with export potential, there's an upside in terms of what their bottom line looks like. They're not trying to convert to dollars, they're actually trying to convert dollars to cedis.
So yes or no, this is one you like?
This is one I like if I have cedis.
Okay, perfect. Let's leave it there. Thanks to my guest, Mr. Africa, Langa Madonko, Investment Principal at Africa Strategic Impact Fund. That's all from Buy Africa this week. Remember to follow me on Twitter. That's at Modiba_Tshepo. And Langa, yours is?
At Langa Madonko.
Okay, there we go. And send us your thoughts about the show using the hashtag Buy Africa. From myself and the team,